In the quiet town of Lincoln, California, nestled in Placer County just northeast of Sacramento, sits the Thunder Valley Casino. On most nights, it buzzes with energy. The clicking of poker chips, the ding of slot machines, and the occasional cheer of a lucky gambler create an atmosphere that's equal parts hopeful and tense. But on the night of the 4th of October, 2005, those lights would cast a shadow over a story that still haunts Northern California to this day. This was the last night that 27-year-old Christie Wilson was seen alive. Christie wasn't someone who blended into the background. Friends described her as energetic, outgoing, and full of laughter. She was a woman who loved life, enjoyed socializing, and wasn't afraid to chase adventure. At 27, she still had so much ahead of her dreams to pursue, places to see, and love to give. But all of that was stolen away in a single night, in a single encounter with a man she had never met before. That man was Mario Flavio Garcia. The night began innocently enough. Christie decided to go out to Thunder Valley Casino. She played games, mingled, and, at some point during the night, crossed paths with Garcia. On surveillance footage later reviewed by investigators, the two were seen together inside the casino, and then later walking out into the parking lot. The images captured her last known moments alive. In those grainy frames, Christie unknowingly walked beside the man who would become her killer. When Christie failed to return home, her friends and family immediately knew something was wrong. She was responsible, she kept in touch, and disappearing without notice wasn't like her. A missing person report was filed, and police began tracing her last steps. It didn't take long for them to identify Garcia as the last person seen with her. He had become the prime suspect within days. Investigators brought Garcia in for questioning. His calm demeanor and explanations initially raised suspicion. He admitted to spending time with Christie but denied any wrongdoing. Still, police needed more than words, they needed evidence. When forensic teams examined Garcia's vehicle, they made discoveries that changed the course of the case. On the back seat and door of his car, they found traces of Christie's hair and small but undeniable spots of her blood. It was the kind of evidence that placed her directly inside his vehicle, contradicting his claims. The discovery didn't end there. Garcia himself had injuries, visible scratches across his face and chest. They were fresh, the kind you would expect to see after a struggle. When asked about them, Garcia offered a bizarre explanation. He had fallen out of a tree. Detectives didn't buy it. To them, it looked like Christie had fought for her life, clawing at him in desperation during what must have been a violent confrontation. As police dug deeper into Garcia's past, what they uncovered was disturbing. He had a history of violence against women. He had been convicted of assault before and, years earlier, had been involved in a fatal car crash that killed both his former partner and her mother. Though ruled an accident, combined with his history, the picture of Garcia grew darker. He wasn't just an ordinary man out for a night of gambling, he was someone with a violent past, and now, it seemed, a killer. Despite the mounting evidence, one critical piece was missing: Christie's body. Police launched extensive searches across Northern California. They combed through fields, ravines, and waterways. Helicopters scanned remote landscapes while search parties scoured wooded areas and open land. Each day that passed brought more despair to her family. Without her body, they couldn't bring her home, couldn't bury her, couldn't say goodbye. The mystery of where she was weighed heavily on the case. Still, prosecutors believed they had enough to move forward. They built a case around the forensic evidence, Garcia's injuries, and his violent history. The trial began, and the courtroom was filled with tension. On one side sat Christie's devastated family, clutching to hope that justice would prevail. On the other sat Garcia, calm and calculated, insisting he was innocent. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. They presented the surveillance footage showing Christie leaving with Garcia. They detailed the forensic evidence, the blood and hair found in his car. They highlighted his scratches, arguing that Christie fought for her life. And finally, they painted a portrait of Garcia as a man with a history of violence against women, a man who had escalated to murder. The defense countered with one argument they hoped would resonate: there was no body. Without Christie's remains, how could anyone be certain of what happened? They pushed the narrative that she could have run away, that perhaps she had simply vanished of her own accord. But the jury wasn't swayed. The evidence was too strong, the story too convincing. In the end, Garcia was found guilty of the murder of Christie Wilson. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Christie's family, it was a bittersweet moment. Justice had been served, but without her body, there was no closure. There was no grave to visit, no place to bring flowers, no chance to lay her to rest. Their pain was endless, a wound that never fully healed. For years after Garcia's conviction, one painful truth remained for Christie's family: her body had never been found. They had justice in the courtroom, but not the closure of knowing where she was. That changed in 2012, 7 years after her disappearance and 6 years after Garcia had already been sentenced to life in prison. During a targeted search in Placer County, near a remote area not far from where Garcia had lived, investigators finally made the heartbreaking discovery. Human remains were uncovered, and through forensic testing, they were confirmed to be those of Christie Wilson. After so many years of uncertainty, her family finally had the chance to bring her home and lay her to rest. The discovery didn't change Garcia's fate. He was already behind bars, but it meant everything to Christie's loved ones. For them, it marked the end of a devastating chapter. While nothing could erase the pain of losing her, finding Christie brought the long-awaited closure they had been denied for years.
This week's 48 Hours investigates how a determined mother was able to find her daughter's body after 15 years without answers. In 2005, Christie Wilson disappeared from a Northern California casino, last seen with Mario Garcia, a man later convicted of her murder. Garcia never revealed where he left her. As Aaron Moriarty reports, with the help of 2 investigators, Wilson's mother finally got her answer.
We started pulling back about 25 feet, pulling just a couple of inches at a time. Went about 18 feet wide, and we stopped everything. We froze everything.
We found Christie. This is a day that we had hoped for. My prayers have been answered. We can now move forward without the torment of the past 15 years.
Years passed, but Christie's story never faded from memory. Her case became a sobering reminder of the dangers hidden beneath seemingly ordinary encounters. It illustrated the importance of forensic science in solving crimes, even when a body is never recovered. The tireless work of investigators and prosecutors ensured that Garcia could not harm another woman again. But for Christie's loved ones, life would never be the same. They spoke often about her kindness, her infectious energy, the way she lit up every room she walked into. To them, she wasn't just another name in a court case. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. Her absence left an emptiness that could never be filled. The haunting nature of Christie's disappearance lies not only in the violence of her final moments, but in the mystery that remains. Where is she? What happened after she left the casino parking lot with Garcia? Did she realize, in those final moments, the danger she was in? These questions still linger in the hearts of those who loved her. Christie Wilson, just 27, vanished after a night at Thunder Valley Casino in 2005. Her life was tragically cut short by Mario Garcia, later convicted of her murder. Though her body wasn't found until 2012, her family's fight for justice ensured her story was never forgotten. Christie's case remains one of California's most haunting reminders that danger can hide behind ordinary faces, and her memory continues to shine as a light against violence.